What's up, listeners? Welcome to the Real Estate Life podcast. And today on the show, I have Winston Schofield. He is a full-time investor in multifamilies with just over 500 units under management. He owns properties in Gainesville, Texas, and Georgia, has a strong background in asset managing, operations, and now has established the JORJEW Group with a team of commercial real estate professionals. They focus on stable assets where they can redevelop properties in Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Tampa. Welcome to the show, Winston. How you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me here. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Winston, you've done a lot in a very short period of time, because you went on this venture of buying multifamilies in 2017.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So can you give the listeners a little bit of your background, your career, your path that your life has taken, and how you have come about to this beautiful industry of multifamilies?
Sure. I started off in the airline industry for 29 years, and you get an opportunity to travel and see the world. Of course, you get to meet a lot of interesting people when you're flying on the plane. You get to chat a little bit. Which, I've always had an interest in knowing what people do for a living. And what I've come across in my travels is people are having time to see the world. And I try to figure out how are they doing this and still have a 9-to-5. They didn't have a 9-to-5. This was happening through investments. Yeah. So of course, you try and pick their brain a little bit to see what those investments entail, because I always knew investments was either stocks or 401k.
Correct. Yeah.
But come to realize that you can invest in real estate and have more time for yourself and your family. So that started to, get my interest in knowing what's investing. And I did try, but before I go deep into my beginnings, I'll let you, ask other questions, because I don't want to go too far off.
No, it's fine. Actually, it's fine that you go back, because that way, listeners could connect with,
Okay.
your experience and how you got to where you got to. It's, just throwing that number of 500 out there since 2017 just sounds just like a number, but we all know that that's not that easy to get to. I know personally what. So when I hear someone, the 500 units in 3 years, I just know all the headaches and what you went through, and all the time just takes for you to get there. So we would like to hear a little bit of your background and how you got into it.
So it was a thing of investments in real estate. So, okay, I'm hearing all about flipping homes, and okay, so I tried my hand in flipping, and I didn't see the upside in investments. That's too much hands-on to say you're passive, because if you're not flipping, then where's the income coming in from? So I tried the flipping, and that wasn't it. Okay, now it's time to go into multifamily, but I went into quads, assuming that I couldn't afford to do larger deals. So I started off in quads, and realized that there really isn't a whole lot of upside in doing quads. They can buy and hold and, reap some of the passive income off of that, but just wasn't enough to allow me to live the lifestyle that passenger on the plane was talking about.
Yeah.
So I needed to educate myself on multifamily on a larger scale. So I started attending a lot of networking events, signed on with Brad Sunrock Group, turned around and signed on with Dan Hansford Mentor Group, signed on with Brian Chavis Mentor Group. So I'm just like a sponge trying to gather up enough knowledge and know-how moving forward. And then just went for it. Went for it first as an LP to get some insight on what it really entailed. I think the biggest mistake I probably would have made would have been to jump in and try and be a GP with no experience. So it was a gradual step into an LP, having an understanding of the industry, and then going into a GP.
Now, let me ask you the transition from flipping houses to your quads to buying your first apartment. What was the length of that? Was that years? Was that months? Uh,
It was years.
yeah.
It was years. It was because I was still doing a W-2, right?
Yeah.
So my time was limited. But in that time period of years, I spent at least probably about a year and a half of just staying with mentors and networking events, educating myself, not wanting to move too fast, because if you move too fast, you're going to miss something.
Yeah.
So I really took my time. And when I felt comfortable that it was time for me to make that transition from W-2 to full-time, I was confident that I had enough experience and knowledge to, get into that passive investment experience of, okay, I can be able to take trips and still pay my bills and enjoy life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it seems that you're very calculated with this strategy. It's a big responsibility to be a GP and manage and raise capital. So you were conscious about that. I do see a lot of some wild people out there raising money and not doing correct underwriting, not getting the construction correct. And those are things that come with experience. I mean, you're playing with people's livelihood, their money. So yeah, you're very conscious about that. So that's why you had to go through that process to feel confident. And that process is what makes you feel confident when you're sitting in front of an investor and you paid your dues like you did and been on both sides. You were an LP. So you know it's what it is to be on that other side and what the GP is not doing correctly and what reports they're not giving you correctly. So that's something that you learn by being playing on both fields. What was your first GP big multifamily that you purchased? What was that deal at?
That deal was in Gainesville, Florida.
Gainesville.
Yes, and it's a massive deal, for it to be my first outing as a GP. It's a massive deal. I mean, this is a deal that consists of 144 units plus a new development of about 264 units.
Yeah.
So, the reward is walking in as a GP, doing a value add deal, which is this is like a combination deal here. It's a value add deal and a new development deal all in one. And that's a rare opportunity.
Yeah.
To walk in day one as your first time out as a GP. But that didn't come overnight, as it didn't happen overnight.
Correct. And I'm very familiar with the deal. Yeah, we met through Louis Becker. He's actually we actually did a podcast together, and yeah, that's an awesome deal you guys have there. We actually did a podcast where he explains about the development you guys have going on in the back. That's going to be sweet. Right. Yeah, that's a really nice deal. There's a deal that you just closed recently. I want to congratulate you on that, on the Augusta deal. Augusta, I always pronounce it right, in Georgia. Tell me how you discovered Augusta. I always pronounce that name in Georgia. Augusta. How did you find that specific deal, and why did you identify that market? Because it's not in the city of Atlanta, which is the most popular city in Georgia. But it's on the outer skirts. What attracted you specifically to that market?
Wow. Okay. Well, one, we were looking in the Atlanta market for over a year. The numbers would not just pencil out. And when you have investors are waiting on you, and every time you go out to these trying to pencil out, and it's not. After a while, that investor is going to leave. He has to park his money somewhere. So that model of just trying to stay focused in that Atlanta market wasn't going to work for us. Augusta is the second largest city in Georgia. So we figured, let's study the market in Augusta, see what's going on. Follow the job growth. People follow job growth. So that's a plus. So we started digging out, reaching out to brokers. Came across this last asset. which we developed a pretty good relationship with the broker. Went to the typical going for tea and coffee, talking, getting to know his, I guess, his deals that he currently has in a pipeline, and giving a better understanding of our business model. Not just jumping in trying to sell ourselves. I think that's the wrong angle to take. And he, mentioned about a deal that he has come in the pipeline in Augusta. Gave us the opportunity to evaluate the deal, tour the property, and it seems like it fit our business model.
You mentioned something there that I want listeners to understand, because it's something that's taken for granted, because sometimes all we want to do is connect through emails and through a phone call with brokers. The relationship, going out and trying to get in front of these brokers on a physical lunch, dinner, coffee. I mean, these guys are busy. These guys are being, there's a ton of people trying to buy deals from them. But taking the time and actually convincing them to even meet with you in person, sometimes it's a challenge in itself, because there's other big players doing that. So that's something that I strongly believe in, that relationship that you created with that broker. Because now it's not just someone on the phone. Now it's not just someone sending an email of an LOI. Now it's a relationship. And if you connect with that person in some way or another, then that actually helps the process. Even if it's not that deal in particular, but now they know, all right, I like this guy. This guy's in the business. You found a connection. Now he's going to give you another off-market deal that he has.
Correct. Right. And it's about relationships.
Yeah.
From just doing this last deal that we closed on in February, the opportunity for another deal is coming up with the same brokerage firm from the relationship.
There you go. There it is.
And it's not just a one-time deal. It's about how did you present yourself day one, and how did you conduct business to get the asset to the finish line.
Got it. Yeah, that's it. How many units is this deal?
This is 104 units.
104 units. What did you identify in this deal as soon as you saw it was the opportunity? Where did you see it?
Oh, on this, the part that really jumped out was the large upside in value add. 98% of the units were in classic shape. So that was a lot of meat on the bone that we knew this deal fits our business model. And we knew we'll be able to achieve it because of the market.
Going in, what was the average rents on those classic models?
On average, rents were about $596.
Wow, that's extreme. Yeah, that's
which
low.
is extremely
that's low.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
When you see that, it's almost like this is a gold mine.
Yeah. What is the pro forma rent that you feel you're going to get to once you start getting those units updated?
About $815.
Sweet.
Which is great. That's a large upside.
Yeah.
We feel we'll be able to hit that target, with a strong team, strong property management team on the ground, we'll be able to make it.
So just so the listeners can understand, what type of upgrades would you do to a property like that? So you're taking it from a classic, classic just so some people understand the lingo, it's probably a unit that's been outdated for over 20 or 15 years. So it needs a substantial updating, like kitchen, flooring. So what type of upgrades do you need to do to get to those $800 rents?
Wow. Definitely change the flooring. Right now it's carpet, and carpet can get dated. It's not the most healthiest living environment having carpet all throughout an apartment, especially if they have pets, and you have to always use a shampoo or change out the carpet. So we're going to change the flooring. That's a must. Change the paint scheme. Right now it's a yellowish beige interior, which is not the end color. We all know gray family is the color. We're going to change the light fixtures. The kitchen, we're going to change the countertops as well. We're going to keep the cabinetry boxes, but probably change the doors and the handles.
You're saving a lot of money there.
Right.
I like that strategy.
Right. There's all white appliances. We're going to change it to black appliances.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe in going with that package. We'll be able to accomplish our target goals in no time.
Yeah. So with the value, with an update to the units that he just mentioned, you could get a bump up of almost $300 in rents. That sounds like a home run to me, man. Because what you
Yeah,
just mentioned to me is it's nothing crazy. It's something that you could get in and out of each units and put them in the market immediately.
correct.
Yeah, that's on.
Because what we did before we even figured that out, we talked to the team that's on the ground to find out if there's a demand for those renovated units. And there's a high demand for those renovated units.
Yeah, the outer skirts of our land are hot, man. I mean, Georgia in general, the migration patterns to Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, these states are booming. Texas, that whole Sun Belt area, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. You can just search and see migration patterns. It was interesting. U-Haul probably has the most accurate migration patterns, and they'll put out reports where people are moving to. Really interesting. Yeah, you're really interested to see how many people are going into Georgia. So you're definitely on the right path. Now, let's go into some uncomfortable question. What would you say was the most difficult deal or issue you had, and tell me how you solved that deal? Because everyone likes to talk about how glamorous it is, but let's get into the nitty gritty. Give me something.
That's a good one. I'm not going to get into any names or deals.
No name dropping. No name dropping.
For me, I would say the most difficult and challenging deal was dealing with the seller. It wasn't the deal itself, it's just dealing with the seller, making it really difficult on certain things that were needed. And unfortunately, you only know what you know. You try and cover as much as you can in your documentation, but unfortunately, we had a seller that was using some of those loopholes that wasn't addressed in the PSA.
Oh yeah. I think I remember when we talk about seller nightmare deals. You go into these deals and you try to get as much into your contract to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really, it's one of those things that I've learned in negotiating deals, that when you really want a deal, it's like poker, and you really show that you're really hungry and you want this deal. Sometimes it bites you because the sellers are like, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't need to show them. These guys are getting these, and they know they're giving you a good deal. So they start slacking on the documentation, but we still got to give documentation to our investors. It's our duty. We need to know what's going on financially. And some of these sellers, they just make it very difficult for us to do our job. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And some of them will just straight lie about numbers and figures, which is a common thing, which is a deal that me and you walked a long time ago, that, we discovered the numbers weren't accurate. So it is tough to deal sometimes with sellers. And I get what you're saying. We've all been in those nightmare situations.
Right.
How'd you get past that? How did you resolve it?
Close the deal. That's it. Close the deal. You're never going to run into a perfect situation, right? The numbers work, and close the deal. Yeah, that's the best way to solve that problem. Is to close the deal. You can't whine about it. It's not going to change anything. Getting upset, it's not going to change anything. Stick to your plan. Close the deal.
How did you secure debt? Was there a bridge loan, or you went Fannie or Freddie for the beginning, or on this deal?
We did bridge. We had pretty good terms with bridge. Under 4% interest rate.
You got a bridge under 4%. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's a really good deal.
We have 3-year IO on the bridge, and I just recently heard that they're going right now. You can get a bridge at 3.5%.
Really?
Right
Winston,
now.
we're gonna have to I'm gonna have to talk to you right after this podcast, because I'm not seeing bridge loans that could close you quick on a. Well, your asset wasn't distressed.
No, right? It wasn't distressed, but we didn't close as quick as we would like had. We thought we were going to close in a short period of time. You know, we were up against holiday season, you know, it was Christmas time and then it was New Year's. So, but we didn't close in a short period of time.
Okay.
So that was,
Okay.
you know, the one thing that we did learn, you know, that time of year, you know, people go on vacation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
What would you say, what would you say the state of multifamily is right now? I mean, I know you're out there looking at deals all the time because we underwrite deals together, and that's another side of the business that the only way you can survive in this industry is you gotta look at a lot of deals.
Right.
So where do you see the state of multifamily going forward, coming out of this COVID? Hopefully, we're coming out of it. Where do you see it?
Wow. Hmm. You know, I'm gonna tell you from my experience of what I see, right? COVID didn't change anything in multifamily. Uh, we looked at deals pre-COVID, in the middle of COVID, and I can't really say post-COVID because we're still in the midst of it all.
Yeah.
But price points, no change. There was no COVID discount. There was no COVID discount at all. So, you know, in my view on that is that trend of multifamily still staying steady is going to continue.
Yeah.
If COVID didn't shake it, you know, yeah, it was a little challenging trying to acquire debt. You know, there was some extra hurdles you had to jump over.
Which is opening up.
Right. But the multifamily space itself, you know, didn't really skip a beat.
Yeah.
So if it didn't skip a beat, then it's not going forward anytime soon for what I see.
Yeah.
Right. And just to rewind a little bit, think about this. We were just in what you would consider a perfect storm. We were dealing with a pandemic and election year, and multifamily still was thriving. So now the uncertainty of the election is over. The pandemic, now there's a vaccine for this virus.
Yeah, which has dropped. The numbers have dropped almost 50%.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think now we definitely can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You know, everything you just said right now is kind of solidifies why we're in this industry and why we love it. You know, if this would have been a podcast about hospitality, that answer would have been completely different.
Of course.
It would have been decimated. We might not even be able to have a podcast. So we're very fortunate that at the end of the day, people need a roof over their heads.
Correct.
People need a place just as much, you know, they need to eat and they need a roof over their head. They don't need a hotel.
No.
They don't need that luxury. They don't need a retail space, but they do need to live under in somewhere that covers their family. So
Correct.
That's the beauty about this industry. It took some hits. I would say that, yeah, you know, it took hits, a lot of stress on management to get the numbers to happen, working with tenants. That part I did see that. I did see some investors or syndicators got caught with their pants down, weren't well capitalized. So I did see some distressed assets come out because of that, because they didn't raise the money adequately or didn't escrow the money. And then their investors have other businesses outside of multifamilies to stop funding, you know, CapEx, stop funding the rehab. So those investors did see it. But if you were well managed, well capitalized, you should have been able to survive this without any issues.
Right. And, you know, you have to buy right.
Yeah.
You know, you have to buy right and, you know, have that buffer. Don't try and buy on the top end. You have to buy right.
Yeah.
So
Winston, let's talk about some bumps on the roads and some failures that you know you've had in real estate. I can tell you about the ones I had in real estate. My biggest failures were when we're talking about flipping, was overly leveraged and buying way too many single family assets with no income or cash flow coming in. And I always mention to buddies of mine who are still in the industry flipping houses, I'm like, be careful because you know, you're buying all these flips, there's no incomes, and you're buying all these single families. So that's one of my biggest failures, and I always preach it. Just be careful you don't overly leverage yourselves with assets with no cash flowing. Can you give us some of the failures or one failure that you had, and you can mention to the listeners so they could learn from that experience?
Don't do business with family. So I'm not going to get in detail because, but
you can't fire them.
No, you can't. Don't do business with family. I can't go into detail on that one.
I do employ some family members. I can't fire them. I can't fire them.
That's a bad business deal. Don't do business with family.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah. All right. So what advice would you give the younger Winston, the Winston before he got in and bought his first deal in 2017? What advice would you give that listener that's trying to step in and he's dabbling in those fourplexes and duplexes and he wants to take the leap of faith? He's watching these videos and what advice would you give that person?
Wow. Everyone is not for you. Everyone will not support you. The ones you are looking for to help you will not help you. Unfortunately, everyone don't want to be your partner unless you're able to add value. And when you're a newbie, how can you really add value as a newbie? You don't have the experience. You really don't have the knowledge. The only thing you're able to offer is your time as a newbie. So
which is precious.
Right. There's no
precious thing we have.
That. Right. Yeah. So as I would tell my younger self just starting out, be willing to invest your time. Don't look for the pat on the back. Mm-hmm. That investment is priceless because there's no price tag on your time. But don't give your time to anyone because not everyone is not in position to appreciate your time.
Yeah, worthiness of your time.
Mm-hmm. Some people will waste your time. Yeah, and my time, have been wasted time and time again in this industry. Yeah. The younger me, take the time to vet people out because some people are not whom they say they really are. They're not really doing it. They're more so talkers than doers.
Correct.
And when you're young, of course, you got to go down that road of finding out, are they really doers or are they talkers? So. Yeah.
You said a lot of things there that touched the nerve in me too. Cause when I'll use the example of SAR Apartment Capital. When I approached my two partners in the industry, I knew that the one thing they needed help was someone to help them out, and it was time. They needed someone to help them grow. They were both, monsters in their industry. They were both really good at what they did, but I knew that we could grow more if I gave them all my time. And I agree with you on that. But you have to identify people that are worthy of that, and that's the challenge. Right. That's a challenge because you just spend time away on people that are not worthy of it. So I gotta say I got lucky, and obviously you did too also, because look what you're doing now. So
yeah, but it was challenging though, because I've given up, I think, probably too much time to individuals that were not worthy of my time. But that's just part of the experience.
It's part of the process. Yeah, it's part of the process. Now, Winston, everybody has a definition of. I've heard all types of different definitions of what financial freedoms mean to them, and what does financial freedom mean to you?
Yeah. Okay. So to me, financial freedom is, today is what, Friday? Okay. Yeah. Well, weekend, right? Let's say it's a Friday. Hopping on a plane, taking a trip to Miami or
you coming to my backyard? Yeah.
Or, Paris, just to relax, just to get away.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about, man, now I got to hit that clock on Monday. Or I can, if I'm in, I'm in Puerto Rico and I want to stay an additional day, I can.
Yeah.
It's just having that freedom to go and do what you want to do and return whenever you want to return.
Yeah.
But for our industry, we can work from a cell phone or a laptop.
Yeah. Technology lets us,
Technology will allow you to be wherever you want to be and still get the job done, and not still having to balance out your checkbook.
Yeah.
I can't rent that luxury car. Let me rent that compact car.
I know exactly what you're saying. I have a wife that wants every weekend, has a weekend getaway every month. So,
I see that finances will allow you to do that. If your finances are not right, you really can't do that.
You just mentioned something that it's one of the things that I love about large apartments. When I had the smaller assets, like you mentioned, the fourplexes and the duplex that I was self-managing, when you have a large apartment, it runs on its own.
Correct.
So you don't need to be there every day. It's a business. It's a business that runs on its own. It has its own property manager in-house. It has its own maintenance. It has to be big enough where you could do all these things. Which is a mistake that a lot of, that you learn along the way of buying those small assets of 15 and 12 units where it's
funny you would say that. When I had smaller assets, you have to be there. You have to be present, right? You really hands-on more so than you would even think of.
Yeah.
Now I'm boots on the ground for this deal in Augusta. I feel guilty because I feel like I should be there, at least 3-4 days out the week. And because of the size, and it's not my role.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to.
No need for me to be there, but I feel like I should be there. So I do go there more than the norm because it's in me to be there.
It's all right to get that weekend getaway. It's all right. It's running. It's not going to fall apart. Look, I came from the restaurant business. I had 2 restaurants. I've never worked so hard in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So this industry of multifamilies, oh man, I love it. I just went to Costa Rica last weekend and it was a last minute thing, just like you said. And I knew that my properties were being managed correctly.
Right.
And another thing of having great partners, I knew if anything, my partners took care of it because this is not a one-man show business.
Right.
This is not a business you could do on your own. You have your partners you rely on. So that's another beauty of it. But the deal's big enough where everyone eats. And that's why I love large apartments.
I got you.
That's why I love it.
Right.
Winston, it was a pleasure talking to you. You dropped a lot of psychology here, that touched the nerve in me. And I hope it connects with a lot of listeners. You seem very passionate of what you do. And I like that. It's contagious. How can listeners get in touch with you? Where can they reach you? Your email? If you want to drop that. And then I'll also drop it in a link at the end of this podcast.
Yes, you can reach out to me through my website, JORJEWGroup.com, or you can email me at Winston@JORJEWGroup.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, to JORJEW Group as well. So I'm all over the map, my words open, let's connect,
Awesome.
Let's talk.
All right, Winston, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate everything you just dropped here. Thank you. Man,
you're welcome. I wish we had some more time. All day.
No, we'll set up another one. Your next deal, we'll do another podcast.
Well, that's coming soon.
Yeah. All right, brother.
Take care.
Thank you.